of course you're feeling overwhelmed and burned out. You go to bed late because you were doom scrolling, and therefore when your alarm goes off in the morning, you are snoozing, which that was me. And now you constantly feel like you're behind on your time, you're rushing. Your breakfast is probably something very caffeinated and maybe even sugary. You didn't have time to make a healthy lunch for yourself, so you'll end up rushing through work, eating whatever. Everything was draining your energy, so you have no energy to actually do something for yourself or to train. And since it is already late, you don't want to immediately go to bed because then you feel like you've wasted your entire day. So what ends up happening is that you now continue this vicious cycle because you'll end up doom scrolling, calling it time for yourself, and therefore you're lacking sleep again. And then you're wondering why your hormonal health and your digestive health is all over the place when you are stressed 24/7. And I get it. The reason why I get it is because I've fallen off track so many times before, but there's one thing that I'm better at than falling off track, which is getting back on track again. And therefore I've been able to stay consistent over the years. So let me walk you through the game plan of getting back on track. There's really only one way to kick this off, and that is by doing something active. Something that's up to your standards, whether that is a gym workout, a home workout, you going on a walk, doing a workout class, doing some stretching, whatever it is, make that time for yourself. Why? Because when we're training, we'll have the workout endorphins, we'll feel better after, we'll have more energy throughout the day, but we'll also sleep better at night. We'll probably go to bed earlier because we are more tired. That will kind of help us with getting back into the swing of things regarding our sleep timing. But also, what I've noticed personally is when I train really hard, when I do my best with working out, I usually eat better too, because I don't want that effort to go to waste. So let me take you along, because I'm going to be training my legs. I quickly learned when starting my fitness journey that it wouldn't be a smooth one. Because this is how it goes. You are just starting out. You give it your best effort. You warm up, you do your training, you even stretch after, you push hard through every single rep, you drink that protein shake, and you even try to go to bed early. And then you wake up, you look in the mirror, and nothing changed. The next day, you repeat. Training, stretch, shake. You look again, still nothing. But it's still early. The motivation is still there. So you keep going, day after day. And now it's week 3. You're tired. Stretching feels kind of pointless. That shake tastes worse every single time. The weights feel heavy and the numbers, they don't move. You look in the mirror, there's still no change. And here's the thing that I realized. Not seeing change and still doing the work, that is exactly the change that you were looking for. In this process of doing your best, falling off track, getting back on it, working through hardships, getting disappointed, pushing yourself harder, you became the kind of person who refuses to quit. The kind of person who shows up without applause, who puts in the work without an instant reward, because champions aren't made in one single workout. It's built in the decision to keep going. To keep going when there are no results, when there is no recognition, when no one is watching, and when it feels like nothing is changing. That's exactly when the winners are made. So you keep laying that foundation brick by brick, because with every single rep and every healthy meal that you cook, you're not just shaping your body, you are shaping you. Because the real transformation, and I say it over and over again, it is not just about the transformation that you go through in the gym, it is about the strength that you build in life. I've been doing a significant amount of dynamic stretches before my workout, and that is because first of all, I'm 31 now, but second of all, I made it this far in my fitness journey without getting any significant injuries, and I would love to keep it that way. So I do a lot of dynamic work because it is a way for me to not only work on my mobility, but also to assess how my body is feeling. So whenever I do these exercises, I mentally go over all the muscles that are working, and I assess if they are maybe feeling a little bit tight, if they need some extra time warming up before I actually start loading them up. And that is just a great way for me to making sure that I really get my body warmed up properly. I also only do one set each exercise. so I don't do like 3 sets, so it looks a lot more than it actually is. When I do a lower body session, I focus on my legs. When I do an upper body session, I focus on my upper body, but I will still do my full body just to make sure, because even when you're not targeting specific muscles, they're often stabilizing or still engaged. And a lot of people don't actually, for example, pull their back whenever they're doing the deadlifts. It is usually happening whenever you do something random, maybe even outside of your training. So that's why I've always been quite careful, and especially now when it's getting a little bit colder, I just make sure that I'm warmed up properly. I'm doing an upper-lower split, which I've been really enjoying. I am actually an upper-lower split girly since the beginning. I actually started with a push-pull leg split, and then I switched to upper-lower, and I've loved both ever since. I've also done full body splits. I've done almost everything except a bro split, and I just change my split depending on the frequency, on how often I want to train. So if I train once or twice per week, I'll go on a full body split. If I train more often, then I'll change my split accordingly. That's also what I'm doing in my app. So I'm doing the Shred program in my app still because I've just been so enjoying this program, especially also the steps and the cardio that come with it. And we still have the deal going that you can get the monthly subscription for only $5 or €5 per month. And you'll actually be able to lock in that lower rate for a year if you want to. Doesn't mean that you're switching to a yearly subscription. It means that you can still cancel whenever, but if you don't cancel, you'll just keep paying €5 or $5 a month, which is the best deal that we've ever done. So in case you are thinking about joining, you should, because training will change your life. Not just your physique, not just your strength, but it will change you. Now, this exercise that I'm showing here is a Jefferson curl, which is basically where you curl your spine under load. It is a very advanced movement, especially if you have any back issues. Be very careful when you are trying this exercise, and definitely don't do it with any weight added. But the idea is that a flexible spine is a healthy spine, and a healthy spine is a healthy body. And that's also why I'm doing these oblique crunches. It's not to train my abs, it is really to get some movement into my spine, especially whenever I am doing lower back work. And my lower back will be engaged whenever I do leg day, which is what I'm doing today. I knew that I was going to do the leg press, the hip thrust, so I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay and felt okay before I actually started loading up. And then additionally, what I didn't include in this video is that before the start of every compound lift, I usually do 2 or 3 warm-up sets. I do one with 50% of the working weights for 5 reps. I do one with 70% of the working weight for 3 reps. And then one with 80 or 90% of the working weight for 1 rep, just to make sure that you get your nervous system properly prepped before you actually start adding the load. And then it is game time. So for today, we're doing a high stance leg press, which targets the glutes slightly more than doing the closed stance, which is more so for the quads. With the leg press, you want to make sure that you don't fully lock out at the top. Then we're moving on to heavy hip thrusts. So the hip thrusts are done for 2 sets, 6 to 8 reps if I remember correctly. Again, it's in the app. Basically, this entire workout was 2 sets. Each exercise. And then we're moving on to a squat variation, a unilateral exercise, which is the Bulgarian split squat. So I've been doing them like this because that's been really helping me with my balance, and it really allows me to focus on the muscles that I try to target. Then we're doing glute focused back extensions. So with the glute focused back extension, I'm rounding my spine slightly to make sure that I stretch my hamstrings and my glutes, and then I just really focus on squeezing them to initiate the movement. If I were to want to focus on my lower back, I would keep a straight back. And then what I tend to do with these extensions is that I drop the weight if I no longer can do them, and then I'll just do them with body weight, and usually I only last for 1 or 2 reps after. Then we're moving on to a seated leg curl as an isolation exercise for the hamstrings. I love the seated leg curl. I prefer the seated leg curl over the lying leg curl, which is why the seated leg curl is in this gym and not the lying one. And I have a slight forward lean to increase the stretch in my hamstrings. And then I also did some calf raises, but I forgot to press record and I didn't want to do any more calf raises, so I didn't include them. but that was his workout. It is time for part 2 of getting back into routine, and part 2 consists of doing a healthy food shop and doing some meal prep. So we're going to the shops now. I'm going to prep a healthy shot. I'm going to prep some breakfast, lunch and dinner. So basically everything. So there is no reason for me to not be prepared for the day. If you're looking for a sign to get back on track again, let this be it. Start with some form of activity and then the rest will fall into place after. That's usually how it works for me. So without further ado, let's go to the grocery store and do some groceries. We're going to start with the shots, the beet shots to be exact. So I have some beets here, carrot, apple, ginger, lemon, and then some apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to put everything through the juicer. The reason why I'm having beetroot specifically is because it's very healthy, especially when you are low in iron, because it also contains vitamin C, which helps with the absorption of iron. So that's a good combination, especially if you have it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, and preferably not have any calcium or caffeine for 2 hours after. That's not really happening in my life, but I'm also not deficient in iron, so it's just to have a bit of a boost. I made 4 portions of the beetroot shots, so these glasses are a bit smaller, but they were actually 4 portions. And then I'm making some overnight oats because I just love the energy that I get from overnight oats, and they're so easy. I can just grab them, add my favorite toppings in the morning, and then you're good to go. And then for lunch we're making a homemade Caesar salad. Here we have the croutons that we just made with some extra virgin olive oil, some rosemary, salt and black pepper, and we're now going to put them in the oven while I'm going to make the dressing for the salad, just for 10 minutes or so at 200 Celsius. I'm making the dressing by blending up some garlic, light mayonnaise, parmesan cheese, anchovy. I added a bit of lemon juice, mustard, and then pepper. And then I'm shredding some rotisserie chicken. I use the hand mixer. It's a bit messy, but I have a dog, so it's fine. And then I am just cutting up some romaine lettuce after I obviously washed it. And then it is basically time to make the plate. Now I'm making a plate, but it is have some whole grain jasmine rice. If I don't train around eating rice, I'll usually switch to whole grain. If I plan on training after or just train before, then I usually have white rice. And then I have some spinach, I have some salmon that I just baked in the oven. I have what I thought were edamame beans, but I accidentally got another type of bean. I have some avocado and sesame seeds. I forgot to end this video, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.